action. I can't get no call to action, but I try, and I try, and I try.
Hello and welcome to Call to Action, the go-to podcast for anyone trying to make sense of the world of marketing, business and beyond. In an industry that is a minefield of utter bollocks, we aim to capture our heroes and allies from the front line to have a chinwag with. It's like Pokemon Go, with the single but vital exception that it's not a short-term bandwagon of shite. It's brought to you by Gasp, and I'm Giles Edwards. This week, we dug a hole in the floor of CTA Towers and just kept digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. And then we stopped for a Lucozade and some Baby Bells, and then we went right back to digging and digging, all because we'd thoroughly misunderstood that the underground where we'd find Charlie Copsey was the trendy kind rather than the subterranean sort. Anyway, Charlie is the founder of Underground Fan Club, the fan experience studio that's dedicated to producing achingly cool and thoroughly believable moments between brands, talent and fans. Determined to provide something deeper and truer than the same old impersonal experiences, Underground Fan Club is built to create the thing that every marketer talks about and so very few actually delivers, a connection with the audience. With a top-notch background in all the traditional media stuff, from TV and radio to film production, Charlie now pours her enormous talent and equally enormous passion into producing events no fan would ever forget, while persuading many major brands to embrace the underground way. Charlie says it's about creating an authentic place for fans, talent, and brands to connect. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
That's, I have to say, is the best introduction I've ever had. So I would like to say, and I might need to rewrite it for my LinkedIn.
It's downhill from here, Charlie.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'd like to think you're there, shall we?
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Right, 7 quick fire questions. I forgot to warn you, sometimes these are unfair, but we do that with love and respect.
Okay, let's go for it.
Number 1, beer or kombucha?
Kombucha.
Sri Lanka or Greece?
Do you know what? They're my 2 favourite. I have to go Sri Lanka, though. It's my new favourite place.
Lovely. Network or independence?
Ooh, network.
Jason Bell or Tony Bellew?
Oh, that is so mean. Tony Bell.
Tony Bell. Right. Authentic or effective?
Authentic.
Nice. You haven't had a both yet. This is rare. Right. Talent or fans?
That's got to be both.
Okay.
You and I both.
Well, I mean, technically no, but we always get 1 or 2. And,
I mean, look, rules are made to be ripped up.
Okay, last one. There's always one that's quite ridiculous. Travis Scott or Scott Morrison?
Oh, Scott Morrison! All day, every day.
Nice. I knew that would bring some energy. Amazing. Yeah. Right. Oh, we can relax now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Charlie, thanks for joining us. We always start the show by asking the guest to describe their career path to date, like how they got to where they are now. And we like to celebrate the not so linear routes that often are shared. Can you start by talking about your first ever jobs and then your first job in the kind of industry that you find yourself in now?
I feel like either people do retail or they do restaurants and whatever that industry is called. What is it? I can't remember what that's called. That was
FMCG
me.
Type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So my first ever job was a waitress at a hotel in my village up in Lincoln when I was 14. I'm not sure are you allowed to work when you're 14? I don't know. I did.
It's bizarre. Do you know what? I don't think so, but so many people seem to have.
Well, again, rules are made to be broken.
There we go.
You'll see that's a theme for me. So I did that and I absolutely loved it. And I made a lot of money. Don't know what I spent it on. I think new outfits every week from Topshop. And then I went to work at a restaurant and then I ended up working at a cocktail bar. And then I graduated and got my first ever proper full-time job in London at a Johnny Vaughan's production company, which is called World's End Television. And that's where I guess essentially my career started.
Oh, wow. You mentioned graduating. What did you study at university and why? That's often a different thing.
Yeah, I went to Loughborough and I did not study sport. I wasn't really that bothered about going to uni. And my mum and dad were very relaxed and they were very much of the mind of do what you want to do and what feels right. But they did encourage me to go to open days and just apply and see whether it was something for me. Again, I didn't really know what I wanted to study, but I loved drama at the time. And I had a great tutor and he just said, you know, you're really good at it. Why don't you, if that's something that you enjoy doing, like just do something you enjoy. I always go back to that when I give people advice. Please find something that you enjoy doing and that you're good at. And and then my dad actually wanted to go to Loughborough and he never got in and his best mate did. So it was like a place for him that was always very much like, you know, kind of bittersweet. He went to Nottingham and I went to an open day and it was pouring with rain. It was such a grim day. And I absolutely just fell in love with it. There was something that really pulled me and it was just such a sociable place. And it was a Wednesday, so it was sports day and everyone was, you know, there was loads of people playing sport and it just had this really, really friendly, welcoming feeling. So I ended up going there and I studied drama. So I did 3 years, 6 hours a week, I think it was. I don't think I really studied for the first 2 years. I just partied, had a great time. But I was actually the social sec in our hall, Cayley Hall, for anyone that's a Loughborough graduate.
Nice.
And so I was in charge of organising the parties. And that was when I think I realised I love bringing people together and I love creating moments and memories and experiences for people, which little did I know would end up being my whole business many years later, 20 years later. So that was Loughborough for me.
Wow. I always think it's obvious what year people are in their degrees by just the way they hold themselves. Like year threes can look like The Walking Dead because they've spent 2 years not doing anything and then they realise, shit.
I know, exactly. Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
So Cayley Hall is where it all started.
Cayley Hall.
Did you know it? Shout out Cayley Hall. Did you have any idea, other than finding something you enjoy, which I think is such good advice, and funnily enough, it came up on last week's show, which has just been released with Jo Living. She said something similar that really kind of resonates with me. Did you have any inkling of where it might take you, or did that just happen over time and then subsequently with your job at Johnny Vaughan's production company?
Oh, I had no idea, no clue. And I think back then I didn't realise what a skill it was, that I was really good with people. And I think it's always been something that I'm really good at, but you don't know it at the time. I had no idea. And also the world's changed. I graduated, I think 20 years ago now, but the world has changed so much since then. But I've always had a really strong work ethic and I never wanted to take a gap year. I just really wanted to get stuck into work. And I ended up, it was that kind of chicken and egg situation of I knew I wanted to move to London, but I didn't have a job, but I knew my family weren't there. So it's not like I could live with my mum and dad at home. So I took that risk of getting a flat first with one of my friends that had actually got a job. And actually it all worked out because I think a week before I was moving into the flat, I ended up getting my job. And so I had this week where I was working anyway. So, which again, it goes back to kind of, I always feel like things figure themselves out if you put yourself out there as well. But yeah, I had no clue. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I was just up for exploring and figuring things out. And the world was really my oyster at that point.
Yeah, it's really reassuring to hear that. And funnily enough, it is something that I'm really happy that we do consistently hear, because the anxiety that I often talk about, I see crippling typically younger people who aren't sure about finding the, quote unquote right way into an industry, probably assume that everyone knows what they're doing. And actually, like I'm 44 now and I keep telling my kids I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, which they think is ridiculous. But I think there's something about it which is just so much more explorative and just having an open mind and being curious about the world. And again, to echo your point about finding something you enjoy, it just tends to be the right path. Did you enjoy the job when you landed? And also, I'm thinking 20 years ago, was that, so assuming you mean Johnny Vaughan, it would have been in his pomp, like the kind of big breakfast type of time?
Yeah, he'd finished Big Breakfast at that point. He came up with the format for Fighting Talk, the 5 Live show. So he was the first host, which is a massive, massive part of my story and my career as well.
What were you doing then to start with there?
So this is really going back into the archives. They actually had partnered or had a partnership with a company called Video Jug, which was online how-to videos. And I feel like they were too ahead of their time with this because I think these would be amazing now. But they ended up, they kind of made these 2-minute, 3-minute videos of like how to. So it could be how to boil an egg, how to tie your tie. But then they did really ridiculous things like how to win an Oscar, like how to, I don't know, it was like and then it was like how to play poker. And they had all these short online videos. So I was the runner for that. And then they roped me into being in loads because they were like, oh, you studied drama, which I really didn't want to be in them. One of them was how to join the Mile High Club. And we actually filmed on a plane, like an aeroplane and some air hangar. And I was the air stewardess. You can probably find it somewhere online. I dread to think.
Amazing.
So anyway, I did that. And then but then Fighting Talk was running. So if you don't know what that is, it's amazing. It was a big flagship show for 5 Live back in the day, but it's still running. And it's a sports entertainment show. Very iconic, very at the forefront, and did a lot of firsts. And I ended up becoming the production assistant on that. Someone went away that worked on the show, and she was like, do you know what? I think you're better suited to this show than me. And I got on really well with the team, and Colin Murray was hosting it at the time. And I ended up working on it and loved it. I just loved it so much. And I wasn't really a massive sports fan, even though, again, I went to Loughborough, but so many weird coincidences here. But but again, it was all about the people and my relationships that has really kind of built into what Underground Fan Club is now.
Yeah, you must have known Colin for ages then. I didn't realise it was so long.
I have known Colin for, 20 years, I think, 18, 20 years. We've been through a lot together, but he's fab. And we produce his 5 Live show on Sunday mornings now on 5 Live. So it feels lovely to still be working with him. He's a very close friend of mine.
So the impression I'm getting is that it was a really kind of energetic, there's a lot of enthusiasm. You seem to sound like it was a real highlight and enjoyable time. And yet kind of in the research for today's episode, there's lots of words that come up like disenchanted and predictable events and things being stifled and predictable PR stunts and so on and so forth. So at what kind of stage did you start to look around and think, actually, this system isn't quite what it could be? Yeah.
So I'd never worked in events before. Actually, we'd done a lot of events for Fighting Talk. So we did our first live show. We were asked by, I think it was a literature festival or something in Harrogate. This was about 15 years ago. And they said, will you come and do a live Fighting Talk in front of an audience? And our answer was genuinely, why would anyone come and watch a radio show? We just didn't get it. We were like, this is just boring. It's just a load of people talking. Obviously, this is, everyone's doing them now. Again, very ahead of our time. But we said yes. And we had people queuing around the block because back then, if you think about it, there weren't really many podcasts. There weren't really, it was such an iconic show. And we had people like Steve Bunce and Bob Mills and these really big names that no one had ever met before and again, radio, like, it wasn't filmed. So people didn't even know what they looked like. So
wow, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and it's really hard to imagine that now. But and we built this massive audience that we've never met before. And again, this was really before socials, so again, we couldn't really interact with them. And so these became really popular. And I think we ended up doing over 30 to 40 live shows across probably like about a 10-year period. And we did a big day out at Stoke City Football Ground. And we had about 3,000 people there. And we did a big day out at Liverpool Echo Arena. And these were just absolutely incredible. So we were doing all these, and obviously these were engaging, they were fun, they were amazing. And I was going to corporate events and I was being invited to corporate events and I was like, oh my God, these are boring. These are so dull. And I'm a producer. I'm all about the content. I'm all about the connection. I'm all about creating something that's really memorable and engaging and entertaining. Like, that is my job, and it has been for such a long time. And I was walking into these rooms and just like, this is the complete opposite. The reason why I started Underground Fan Club was because I was building these really special relationships with talent and athletes and people coming on Fighting Talk and other shows that I was working on, and really seeing their human side and seeing them as people. Like, they're just incredible people, and fans just weren't being able to experience that. You know, like, even you can see people on socials, but there's a camera up, there's a screen up, there's a bit of a barrier. And I knew that talent wanted to connect with fans as well. And obviously we'd kind of been doing this through Fighting Talk. And I just, like, it kept kind of gnawing at me. I was just like, there needs to be a platform where talent can show up as themselves and be themselves and connect with fans the way they want to connect with fans. And, you know, likewise, fans being able to connect with talent and really being there to be made to feel special. And I just wasn't seeing that. All these events were for influencers or corporate, you know, people in the industry, and they weren't really made for fans. Or if there were any fan events, it was very like quick meet and greets, or just, again, very staged and very sanitized. And I really wanted to rip up the rule book.
So the talent and the fans were both getting shortchanged in effect.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Sense. Awesome. And then how did you go about building something that corrected that? And what was the kind of initial response from the talent that you'd already had relationships with? They must have been all over it.
Yeah, they were. And it goes back to my relationships. I've spent such a long time building relationships, and relationships are a two-way street. I think I've always had been of the mind of, I always show up and support people, and I'm always saying, how can I help you, without wanting anything in return. Like, I have a lot of people, especially athletes, ringing me for advice all the time, and I'm so happy to support and help them. You know, I don't want to be their agent. I've been asked to be people's agents a million times. That's not for me. But I'm always there to support people. And so when I had this idea, that's when, you know, and people end up wanting to support you. It's a lovely, beautiful two-way street. So I don't know whether people might know who Steve Bunce is, but he's the most such an iconic voice in boxing. You will definitely recognize his voice. And I've known Buncey for years, and he's the most incredible man. And I took him for coffee, and I was like, I've got this idea, and I just want to run it past you because I think boxing would really benefit from it. And he said, yes, absolutely. Fans need this. Boxers need this. And this is 2018, so this is quite a long time ago. Boxing has massively evolved, obviously, over the years, but nothing really was for the fans, and the big fights weren't really like they are now. So I said, okay, will you support me and will you do this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Tell me what you need. Buncey brought down loads of people. I got a free venue. I was on the members board at the Curtain in Shoreditch at the time. They were really supportive. They were like, yeah, have the venue for free. And then I called Nick Bright, who was a presenter, and I'd been working with him, and he hosted it. And Darren Harriott, the comedian, he came down, and I went to uni with David Hayes' agent, Nicole. So I rang her and I was like, look, I've got this idea. The caveat is I don't have any money because I'm essentially, you know, doing this myself. And she was like, do you know what? I think he'll really like this. And she asked him and he said yes. So they all came and none
Fantastic.
of them got paid. Like, they did it for free. And because I was saying, like, I want to create something, you know, for you guys as well as much as the fans. And yeah, and they came down and we created this really engaging, fun, dynamic show that was just could not be more different to anything that any of them had done before. There was just so much passion and love in the room. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous to say. And it just felt it was like a really special moment. And Fleur East is a good friend of mine. And I was like, can you come and DJ? She was like, yeah, I don't know anything about boxing, but sure. So she came and DJ'd, and it just had a real energetic, fun night. And I have such fond memories of that night. I was really, really shitting myself though. I was petrified. What if no one comes? You know, I haven't really done events before, but I just knew I had to do one. I think I did a post on LinkedIn the other week, and I said, forget the deck, forget the website, forget the business plan, just start. And I think so many people, their fear gets in the way and they feel like they have to have everything ironed out and everything perfect before they start. But if I hadn't have done that event, I don't think I'd have really dragged my feet, and I don't think people would have taken me seriously. You can only put so much on a deck about your ideas. You have to bring it to life. And when people see that you've really put yourself on the line, you know, I put my reputation on the line. It could have gone disastrously, but it didn't. It was amazing. And then I could show people like, this is what I'm creating. So that's where it all began.
Amazing. There's that saying, isn't there? Whether you think you can or can't, you're right, which I've always loved.
Yes.
It's so good. And it just reminded me of it there, that story. So no, kudos to you, because that's just, I mean, you could have stopped after about 2 of the names in that talent showcase, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and better. So no, hats off.
Yeah.
I was wondering, in terms of like the process before, like the kind of antiquated process that might have existed before, you know, not always, I think we need to be fair to say, but a lot of the times was probably a bit like, for brands specifically, a bit like place logo here and kind of have an overriding, almost like dictate the event, just stick your logo on and a that'll do type approach. Did brands get it? Do brands tend to get what you're offering and why
it's been a journey for me on this, because I worked in not brands and agency world. So I've worked in TV, radio, film, where I never had to worry about a brand's logo ever. Okay. I didn't have to worry about that. So again, going back to what I said earlier, it was all I needed to worry about was that connection with the audience and creating something extremely special. And when you bring a brand into the mix now, I was like, oh my God, like this is a whole new world. And our second event, we actually brought a brand in. So we did a Super Bowl event, and I flew over an NFL player for that. And we had Asmir Begovic, and again, brilliant panel. And it was a bourbon brand. And yeah, that was the first time. But I think, so there's a lot that I've learned over the years. But I think I was going to use the word ignorance, but I don't want that to come out wrong. But as in my naivety, probably, to that world, I think has really served me, because we are here to make the most exceptional experience possible. And therefore, we don't really want to get to, like you say, the kind of like the placing of the logo, and the brand can really, if you're not careful, really take it over and essentially ruin it. So I have been very clear from day one when we work with brands, this is a collaboration with Underground Fan Club. We are not a white label business. You know, like we're here to create something very iconic and very special with you. We don't call them clients, they're our partners. And I think even the way that we kind of communicate and the way that we create something together is just a different way. So we want the best result for the brand. Of course we do. So we are going to work really hard to make sure that the brand is integrated, but in a way that's going to connect with the audience. And I think that's where a lot of the time brands get it wrong. And they don't know how to, they don't know what talent to work with. They don't know how to work with talent. They can just make it all about them. And I understand where they would be coming from on that. But if you make it all about the brand and all about trying to sell something, you're going to probably make it like you're not going to get that connection, because audiences are savvy, fans are savvy. They want to feel like they're not being sold to. But you can do it in a really clever way. And I've got loads of examples of that where we've worked with some amazing brands and they've just absolutely got it. And they've kind of let us get on with it. And they trust us with our process, and they trust that we're going to put them in the best light possible. But it's taken a long time to get to this point. And some brands absolutely do not get it. And we are not the right partner for them. And I think it's taken me, I'm in a really confident place with the business now, and it's taken me a long time to get here. But I'm okay by saying, like, we're not for everybody, and I don't want to be for everybody. Some brands would want to do that corporate thing. They'll want to play it safe, and that's absolutely fine. And, good luck to them for doing that. But we want to work with brands that do want to be different, that want to stand out, that don't want to do the same thing all the time. So it has to be the right kind of partner and the right kind of brand that we work with. And, we've turned down partnerships in the past because I'm like, either I just get a bad feeling about the way that they speak to us. And again, it's very kind of dictator. And I'm just like, nope, not, we don't need to do this. Because, I have to protect our brand as well. Underground Fan Club is a brand, and it's becoming more known. And, I meet random people and they go, oh, I've heard of Underground Fan Club, which gives me the most heartwarming feeling.
Time, weather, and...
We interrupt this podcast to announce that we will never interrupt this podcast with ads. Ads that awkwardly nudge you to contact the pod's host, Giles Edwards. Only last week, some pod listening companies did just that, calling for guidance on proper marketing. But we're not asking you to do that. Nope. Anyway, back to the show.
Marketing is incredibly confused with sales.
I think you're the one who's more confused, Gary V. Sunshine. Here we go.
It's a shame you've not worked in agencies, because I can imagine the way you talk about talent, I can imagine that being true of like whole creative departments and like having this kind of respect for the talent and the people who are at the heart of something being such an effective, successful event, rather than the kind of transactional type sponsorship that you might experience elsewhere. You said some brands don't get it. Is there like a category of brands or a particular sector of brands that don't get it? Or
no, I don't think there's a certain category. I do think, look, it is all down to the individual as well. I think whether it's a CMO or, whoever's leading the brand, they have to be willing to take risks as well. They have to be the kind of person that really wants to push. And you know what? It probably takes more work. So you need someone that's really willing to go, yeah, I want to push this. I want to push ourselves. We need to be standing out. Rather than saying someone that's not doing it, I'll say someone that's amazing. And they're a big client of ours. They're called sportshoes.com. And we've been doing experiences with them since, I think, 2018 or 2017. There's a guy called Gav, who's actually become one of my really good friends. But from day one, he's just really got us. And he's like, we want to create really great experiences. And the growth of sports shoes over the years, like they are such an iconic place for runners now. They've really found their niche. And this is not just to do with our events, obviously. They do so many amazing things. But working with people like that just go, he comes to me and he goes, okay, we're launching this new trainer. What do you want to do? And then I'll come and go, okay, let's do this or this or this. And he'll go, yeah, great. Here's the budget. Let's go and do it. That is the absolute dream. So yeah, I don't know whether there's a certain category, but I'd say the person driving it in the business they're the most important person. And I've had conversations with people and I'm like, they don't get this. They do not get it. Like, it's a shame because the brand would be great. It would be great to work with this brand, but this person, this individual is not going to drive this forward. They don't get it. They probably want to stay safe. They probably want to do what they always do. And therefore you have to kind of just accept that and move on.
yeah, I guess in some circumstances, like I guess what you're trying to achieve is to do something that's bigger than the sum of its parts. And if you're working with a brand that doesn't get it, you're never going to achieve that.
No, exactly.
It's funny you mentioned sports shoes. I'm a reformed running addict.
I
used to exclusively buy all my running shoes through them years ago.
Oh, that's great to hear.
But it was probably prior to 2018, and I certainly don't remember them having any particularly exciting kind of partnerships to say. But they're they've grown significantly since then. So
yeah,
that's
definitely
a big section to be in. As Charlie, do you find it difficult, or like how do you determine when you take a step back as well? Because obviously you've got all of these, you've got the brands, you've got the talent, you've got the fans, and they've got Underground Fan Club. There's a lot more to just introducing a brand to a talent in order to achieve something with fans, isn't there? So how do you know when to be really involved, and then when do you become a bit more kind of passive in that process?
You probably realise this. I'm just a very passionate, energetic person.
Yeah,
so we go to the nth degree. We'll go to the edge of the world to make sure things are spectacular and like probably too much sometimes. And I think that's probably my fault in a way. Maybe not that I care too much, but I think our good is probably someone's exceptional. So, it's kind of like knowing where to go. Okay, like we kind of need to rein it in a bit now. And I think that over time, we've got it locked down how we do experiences. And obviously we're evolving all the time and every experience is different, but we almost have a bit of a recipe of like what makes a great experience. And that's kind of our secret sauce. That kind of becomes easier. And I was just literally on a briefing call with a client not a client, a partner. We're partnering with someone to do something. And I was just saying all this stuff to him. And he's like, oh my God, I've never even thought about this before. And you forget how much you know and how much just is ingrained in you.
Have you become a sports fan, I wonder? Because I know you've said you're on record to say you're not a massive sports fan, but part of you must have some kind of allegiances now to the sporting industry.
So what I love about sport is how it brings people together. I think sport is the best industry to work in. Although I get, we work in running and fitness as well. And that again is very similar. I don't support a football club. I don't know the ins and outs and the, kind of the stats and all that stuff. And going back to when I worked on Fighting Talk, I felt like I wasn't sure I was able to work on the show when I first started because I was like, I'm not a sports fan. I don't know who's won every FA Cup or who's, right back for Man United. I didn't know all that stuff. And it turns out I really didn't need to know because I had 3 absolute sport fanatics on the production team, including Colin. What I was amazing at was those relationships and finding the talent and finding people like John Bishop when there was 12 people at his gig. And, that was my talent. So it ended up being that I really didn't need to know that. So to be honest, I'm so fine with not being a massive sports fan. And I own that now. And doesn't worry me to go, oh, I work in sport and I'm not a massive sports fan. And I say this so many times, but when you can be different, be different. And I think it's, again, it goes back to me, just like I love people. I love those connections. I love that we can do so many incredible things around sport and it's so empowering and it's entertaining and it's, it's the best kind of unscripted drama there is. So it's almost like I love everything that's like off the pitch, off that 90 minutes. That's what I love. And of course, I've grown to love the industry more. But also, I think sport is a catalyst for so many other things, music, culture, fashion. There's so much to be explored around it. But sport always is that it feels it's that central hub for so much stuff. And that's why I love sport so much.
Yeah. Amazing. You said surround yourself with a positive network of people who will always have your back and you can turn to for advice. So even sporting knowledge and advice.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
And how are you finding running a business? Because how many years are you in now? 7? Is it 7 years?
Yeah, nearly 7. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Should we just leave it there?
Yeah.
It's hard. I am a solo founder, which is triply hard.
Yeah.
And to be really honest, I never set out to run a business. I was never one of these people selling lemonade at 6 years old and trying to make 20p. I hear so many founder stories and they've always had this entrepreneurial spirit in them or their parents were entrepreneurs that's just never me. That's never been me. And honestly, if 30-year-old Charlie had been told she had her own business, I just would have said no way. But honestly, I've really surprised myself. But it was something that just naturally happened. And again, this goes back to don't worry, you've not got a plan. Like I really believe that. This was obviously my calling and my journey, but I also really love it as well. I love the freedom. I think one of the reasons why I left the business that I was at was that I wasn't the one being able to make decisions. I had so many great ideas and I was like, let's do this. And I've met this person and I was kind of getting pushed back of, no, we can't do it or we're not going to spend time on that. And it was really infuriating for me. Hence why I thought I'll just go and do my own thing. But I've had to learn so much. I didn't know what VAT was. I didn't know what corporation tax was. I didn't know how to even use Excel. I'm not kidding you. So I had to start doing my P&Ls but you just figure it out. You just learn. And now there's so many resources. There's Canva, there's Squarespace for your website, there's Xero for your accountancy. There's really there's no excuse for people not to start because there are so many tools. But I think it's really changed me as a person. And I am so grateful. And I was working with a strategist recently and he said Underground Fan Club is an extension of you. He said the language, the way that you make people feel, that is really what Underground Fan Club is doing. Like we want to make people feel great and we want to bring people together. And that's really my personality. So to be able to get to do that, and the freedom and the flexibility, and for me to just say yes to things and not have to ask anyone else, I just think is so empowering. And I'm really stepping into it now. I think the last year since I left Fighting Talk last year, it's given me that autonomy to go, okay, I'm a fully fledged business owner. I know I've got this, and I've stepped into the shoes properly now. And I really feel like I'm enjoying it a lot more. I think it's been a really anxious time, whereas I kind of go, yeah, not that I know I do know what I'm doing, but I certainly don't have it all figured out. I'm not going to lie about that.
Yeah, but that sounds great. I mean, it sounds like you're saying, like, I know I can do this. I don't know what it is yet or what it might be, but I know I've got this. And that's just such a great headspace.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, well, amazing. The word authentic gets misused a lot these days, but I think this definitely sounds like one of those things. With the strategist saying it feels like an extension of you. I mean, it comes across in spades. It really does feel like an authentic business and truly shaped in the Charlie way. So, yeah, no, it sounds fantastic. I've got a couple of listener questions I'm going to throw at you, Charlie. So asking the general public for their opinion, be it on Brexit or boat names, is notoriously fraught with danger. Julian asks, what's the most surprising or unexpected outcome you've witnessed from an underground fan club event?
Ooh, great one. I guess this was done meaningfully. So I don't know whether it's unexpected, but maybe to brands, not to me or to other people. Everyone is so obsessed with influencers and getting, VIPs in the room. And I think there's something incredibly special having, I say normal people, and I don't want, that to sound bad, but the everyday person, making them feel part of something. I think that's like a really surprising thing, that you get something really special and it goes back to being authentic and you get something very different. Recently, we created a whole campaign with Fleur East around a run club, and it was specifically for women, and it was in partnership with Fleur's Curl Kitchen, which is the curly, coily afro hair. And we did it with Adidas and sports shoes. And it was so targeted for women that, aren't massive runners. They want to be part of a community. They want to turn up and, kind of be who they are and be part of something. I overheard someone saying to their friend, they were like, I can't believe we've been chosen to be here. And they all got gifted Adidas trainers that they got to take home, and they got to spend the morning with Fleur East, and she's, just hanging out and chatting to everyone. And it was such a magical moment, and I knew that was magic. But I think seeing brands and other people being like, oh yeah, we can actually create something for the actual customers, for the actual people that are buying the product. I think that's something that's kind of really at the heart of what we're doing. And again, it's very different to what nearly everyone else is doing. It goes back to, we want to be really different and we want to stand out. So it's less about me being surprised, but I think everyone else around me being surprised.
And I think that's such a key point to make. And there's a lovely standout testimonial that I read doing the research from Ramat, who said, I've never had a brand preference when it comes to trainers, but Adidas has now won my heart. So it's not, this isn't just data on a spreadsheet and analytics on a campaign success. It's like, it's very true.
Absolutely. And I will just give a nod to Adidas there, because they were so amazing. They were so collaborative. They were just like, we will be part of this. And it tied in amazingly with one of their new trainers, which was, again, for everyday runners and not making people feel like they had to be the fastest. But they get it. They go, we will be here and we will be supporting. And yes, but they never pushed the narrative, and they just made it kind of like a really special experience with people. And that's when it goes back to what we said earlier. Don't force yourselves onto fans. They will come to you if you've made them feel great.
Yeah, great answer. The second question is from Claire. Claire says, having moved from traditional media, what have you had to unlearn?
Having to take more risks and really step out of my fear. Step into my fear, step out of my fear. I think things can be quite formulaic, I guess. Like, I know how to do a radio show or a podcast. Well, you know, so easy. I've done it for years. TV, you end up becoming quite comfortable. And I think stepping out of traditional media, it's like I've really had to push myself to learn new things, to really be different in a different space. So I think I see so many people and they're just in this comfortable space. And it's a lovely place to be in. You don't have anxiety. You wake up and you go, yeah, I know what I'm doing today, and I'll go and do it well, and I'll leave. Whereas stepping out into a totally like uncomfortable zone is really hard, but that's where I've grown the most. If everyone's doing something, I will be damn sure I'll go the absolute opposite. I just hate doing what everyone else is doing. So yeah, I think it's really about stepping into my fear, and I'm really pushing myself.
Yeah. Amazing. Rules are meant to be broken. You taught me that.
Yeah.
Perfect. The 4 pertinent poses we finish with, Charlie, start with, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Trust the process. I really don't worry as much anymore. I think I really go, everything is going to happen for a reason. Everything does happen for a reason. I work really hard. I'm not someone that just sits back and go, everything's just going to fall into place. But I get really excited about not knowing what the destination is, because this journey has been crazy and none of it I would have been able to predict. But what I have said from the day I started Underground Fan Club, I have said, I'm building something really special. An Underground Fan Club I know is going to be incredibly successful. I've just said it. Or even on the darkest days when I'm like, what the hell am I doing? We're not earning any money. This is shit. Like, even then I've gone, no, that everything's going to be good. And I've always had that really positive mindset in my head. Whenever I get a no or something falls through, I literally go, I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't meant to be. And I swiftly move on. I'm really resilient in that sense. But I think you can only do that if you have a really strong purpose and you understand what your why is. And I do with Underground Fan Club. And I think if your why is to make a shit ton of money, and that's all you care about, I think you're really going to struggle in the times when it's really hard.
Yeah, that's a real skill, being able to just quickly walk away from that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great answer. If you could banish one thing from your industry, what would it be and why? You don't strike me as someone who has a long list of things to banish.
Yeah, 20 million things. So Scott Morrison, everyone, to give some context, Scott introduced me to Giles. So hence why I said Scott earlier. But Scott and I had a coffee a few weeks ago, and this came up. We were like, we hate mediocrity.
Okay.
I just hate people that just don't make an effort. It's kind of like and so many people and brands and agencies just get away with it. And they get paid so much money to do really mediocre work. And it really grinds my gears. Again, it goes back to like the laziness and just trying to fit in and do what everyone else is doing. I can't think of anything worse than that. So yeah, mediocrity, ban.
Awesome. Well, this is like episode 166, I think. And that's never come up. I would have remembered
Hasn't
if it had.
Really?
No, but it's an awesome one. It's a belter.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Number 3, are there any books you could recommend to our listeners?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, there's some classics like Shoe Dog. I think any entrepreneurial books I absolutely get stuck into and I love reading. So I'd say Shoe Dog. I remember reading Richard Branson's years ago and absolutely falling in love with that as well.
Do you balance work-related books and fiction? Because some people don't.
Yeah, I think we can get so overloaded with podcasts obviously I love a podcast, but I feel like I'm constantly learning, and sometimes I just want to switch off. I just want to go into another world, into a fiction, into like Italy in the 1920s to a love story, which is what I'm reading at the moment. And it's just great. I was in Cannes at the weekend with some friends, and it was just so nice to just read a book that wasn't about flipping business. So yeah, I don't do it all the time, but when I'm away or I'm traveling on a train or something, I'll try try and not make it all about business, because I think it's just really important to try and switch off and not be too obsessive with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I recall this, so this must be 4 years ago maybe, when Jenny Womanek first came on the show, and I'm just trying to find it now, she recommended A Scandalous Life, and it was probably the one book that we've had like dozens and dozens of listeners came back and said, oh my God, can you thank Jenny for this?
Okay. I need to put it on my list.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, because she kind of similarly balanced it with some sort of work-related books. And then, I can't remember the actual gist, but it's a fascinating true story. Yeah, I think it had a fair amount of eroticism. I don't think Jenny would mind me sharing that, but there we go.
Oh, okay, right, sign me up. You know, I am reading at the moment, actually, I just glanced over. It's called Careless People, and it's about Facebook. But it's the woman that worked there for a really long time, and she's essentially, it's a bit of an expose on how, let's just say, they might not have been great at a lot of things.
That's definitely fair to say.
I have just been gasping at so many chapters. I'm like, oh my God, really, this has happened. So yeah, I'm enjoying that one at the moment.
Awesome, great. Okay, well, we'll link to all three of those. And then number 4, we always dedicate every episode to someone, and we bestow or hospital pass that honour, depending on your view, to our guest, who has to give the reason why. Would you dedicate this episode?
Oh, that's hard. Do you know what? I'm going to dedicate it to Colin Murray, because I feel like Fighting Talk has been such a massive part of my life, and I met so many incredible people. But Colin's like energy, he really was Fighting Talk for such a long time, and we've just had so many great experiences together along the years, and we work together so much now. And when we won the commission for the new Sunday morning slot on 5 Live, that was, I think, 2.5 years ago. And actually, when Colin did his first link, he dedicated the show to me, and he was like, I've known Charlie since she was 21 as a runner, and it's a really honour and privilege to produce her first show for the network. And so it was just like a real special moment. So I feel like I kind of owe a shout out back to him. Nice. But yeah, it's really nice when I left and started my own thing, he was really in my corner and really supported me. And we've been through a lot together, and we've, supported each other a lot. So I feel like, yeah, I definitely owe a lot to Colin. So I'll shout out to him.
Yeah, awesome. That's amazing. We all need people like that in our corner. But
yeah, we do.
I didn't think this day would come, but I'm really proud to dedicate this episode of Call to Action to Colin Murray. Awesome.
Yes.
So good to hear. Everyone listening then, as a final call to action, if you head over to the listing wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll find links to everything, including Underground Fan Club, to the books we've discussed, Shoe Dog, Careless People. How else can our listeners get more Charlie?
I don't know whether they'll want more of me. But if they do, I'm on Instagram. I'm Charlie Copsey, and LinkedIn. I've been a lot more active on there recently, sharing lots of thoughts. So yeah, Charlie Copsey on there as well. So they're my 2 places.
Awesome. Well, we'll include those links too. So lastly, Charlie, thank you so much for giving us Just Thinking Kaylee Hall. Rules are made to be broken. When you can be different, stepping into your fear is an awesome story, and it's an awesome business that what you're doing. And I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. So thank you so much for joining us.
Me too. Thank you. That was really fun. Thank you.
Finally, thank you to everyone listening. If you've enjoyed the episode, please do share and review the pod. Keep your questions and guest requests coming in. To get in touch, it's easy to find Gasp online, or email the mouthful, that is calltoaction@gasp.agency.
I can't get no call to action. I can't get no call to action, but I try and I try and I try and I try. I can't get no call to action. Oh, I can't get no call to action. Yeah,